It's May 12th, 2024 in Hillsborough, North Carolina. And it's Mother's Day. So I'm going to be reading from Bhagavad Gita 9:17. It's going to be a little different Mother's Day class, perhaps. Ready? Okay. Pitahammasya jagato matadata pitamaha vejam pavitram omkara riksamaya jurevacha pitahammasya jagato matadata pitamaha Vejam pavitram omkara Riksamaya jurevacha Pitahammasya jagato Matadata pitamaha Vejam pavitram omkara Riksamaya jurevacha. Anybody like to chant? Pitahammasya jagato matadata pitamaha vejam pavitram omkara riksamaya jurevacha pitahammasya jagato matadata pitamaha vejam pavitram omkara riksamaya jurevacha pitahammasya jagato matadata pitamaha vejam pavitram omkara Iksamaya jurevacha Pitahammasya jagato Matadata pitamaha Vejam pavitram omkara Riksamaya jurevacha Pitahammasya jagato Matadata pitamaha Vejam pavitram omkara Riksamaya jurevacha Pitahammasya jagato Matadata pitamaha Vejam pavitram omkara Riksamaya jurevacha Pita, Father, Aham, I, Asya, of this, Jagataha, universe, Mata, mother, Data, supporter, Pitamaha, grandfather, Vejam, what is to be known, Pavitram, that which purifies, Omkara, the syllable Om, Rik, the Rig Veda, Sama, the Samaveda, Yagyahu, the Yajur Veda, Eva, certainly, Cha, and. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, Sama, and the Yajur Vedas, Srila Prabhupada's purport. The entire cosmic manifestations, moving and non-moving, are manifested by different activities of Krishna's energy. In the material existence, we create different relationships with different living entities, who are nothing but Krishna's marginal energy. Under the creation of Prakriti, some of them appear as our father, mother, grandfather, creator, etc., but actually they are parts and parcels of Krishna. As such, These living entities who appear to be our father, mother, etc., are nothing but Krishna. In this verse, the word dhata means creator. Not only are our father and mother parts and parcels of Krishna, but the creator, grandmother, and grandfather, etc., are also Krishna. Actually, any living entity being part and parcel of Krishna is Krishna. All the Vedas, therefore, aim only toward Krishna. Whatever we want to know through the Vedas is but a progressive step toward understanding Krishna. That subject matter which helps purify our constitutional position is essentially Krishna. Similarly, the living entity who is inquisitive to understand all Vedic principles is also part and parcel of Krishna, and as such is also Krishna. In all the Vedic mantras, the word Om, called Pranava, is a transcendental sound vibration and is also Krishna. And because in all the hymns of the four Vedas, Sama, Yajur, Rig, and Atharva, the Pranava or Omkara is very prominent, it is understood to be Krishna. Pitaham asya jagato mata dhata pitamaha vejam pavitram omkara riksama yajur evacha. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, the Sama, and the Yajur Veda. Just a little interesting purport from Srila Prabhupada. It's a non-typical purport because we have our Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva philosophy that we are all one with Krishna and different from him. But generally, because Srila Prabhupada, Nirvisesha Sunyavadi, is trying to counteract the effect of impersonalism and voidism, generally Srila Prabhupada's emphasizing the difference between the living entity and Krishna. Now here's a purport where he's emphasizing the oneness. And I find this a very interesting purport. As I say, it's not a typical purport. What I want to focus on here entirely today is that Krishna says he's the mother. Yes, so in every religion of the world, they understand God as the father. And of course, Krishna in this verse says he's the father. But he also says he's the mother. So I would like to look at how he's the mother, how we can understand that Krishna is the mother. And in doing so, we're going to look at all aspects of motherhood. Marriage, union, pregnancy, labor and birth, lactation, the love of a mother, providing education for children, and the lifetime relationship with a child. And then finally, we're going to look briefly at Krishna's pastimes related to either being mothered or mothering. So, of course, today people celebrate ordinary motherhood. And quite frankly, ordinary motherhood is not that glorious. I mean, all species give birth, and many species are much better at it than we are. There are species that can produce hundreds or thousands of offspring, and the offspring are all very obedient. The little baby spiders all become very good spiders. None of them rebel. I'm not going to be a spider. So, in many respects, other species of life are more expert at reproduction and training of their children, training the baby penguins how to swim and so forth. So, in one sense, just being a mother is not anything particularly special. But on another hand, human birth is very special. We talked about this the other day, how when some other living entity dies, we don't take much notice of it. Where I stay right next to the bathrooms, there's a light on every night, all night. And so every morning there's many dead bugs. They come at night to the light and then they die. And nobody has a funeral for the bugs. Nobody is making some arrangement for the dead bugs. Even generally when people's pets die, there's not usually, sometimes, but usually there's not much of a funeral. But human birth is very, I was thinking this, I just had a birthday, and why do we celebrate birthdays? It's glorious to get a human birth. It's actually, being a human mother. I used to say I was my mother's, I was very bad. I used to say I was my mother's Mother's Day present. It's terrible. I'd say, I don't need to give you a present, Mommy. I'm your Mother's Day present. And of course, being a mother is much better than illicit sex, which has become very common nowadays. that people just have so many sexual partners and they don't want to produce children. And so in that sense, to do something righteous and to give a jiva a human birth, that is something particularly above the animals. But again, I want to look especially at Krishna as the mother. So in a civilized society, motherhood starts with marriage. That's not so much true anymore. When I was a child, maybe 4%, they say, of births were outside of wedlock in America. And then even 10 years ago, it was up to 40%. And many of those are deliberate. People are deliberately producing children outside of marriage. But used to be understood that, the first thing was marriage. So marriage itself is a yajna. And Krishna says that he is this dharmic sex life, that this marriage yajna and this marriage relationship is Krishna himself. Now, in a marriage, what do we say? At least in the Western countries, we say for better or worse, in sickness or in health, right? Richer or poorer. And this is the relationship that Krishna has with the living entity. Of course, we can think of this especially when we take initiation. We take initiation and we say, Krishna, now I dedicate myself to you. And he says, yes, and I dedicate myself to you. It's this mutual thing. As Prabhupada says, we will be dragged to success, right? And Krishna is not going to give up on us. Apichet Sutaracharo, even if we're struggling, if we have some difficulty, Krishna is saying, you gave yourself to me, I'm giving myself to you. That Krishna has this, one of his qualities is that he's dependable. And Srila Rupa Goswami describes this dependability of Krishna as that the demons know that if they follow the rules of karma, that they will not be punished. This is a very different conception than in the Abrahamic religions, which say that you have this one life, and if you don't accept God, you're going to go to hell forever. I mean, if any ordinary parent did that, they would be arrested. If you don't immediately obey me in the next 5 minutes, then I'm going to torture you in a lake of fire for millions of years. So this is often people's conception of God, but Krishna is not like that. He's dependable. He says if you follow the rules, then you will get a good result. And even if you're Krishna's son, like Bhaumasura, if you break the rules, then he'll punish you. Yes? So if you're Krishna's own child or Krishna's own devotee and you break the rules, he will punish you. And if you're Krishna's enemy and you follow the rules, then he'll reward you. This is how the demons often get all these benedictions, because they follow all of the rules. So Krishna's very dependable, but especially for the devotees. We have Lord Nrsingadev says, anyone who one time says, my dear Lord, from this day on I am yours, he said that person becomes my personal ward. And we think about in the Ramayana when Bibhishan came to surrender, and everyone except Hanuman was saying, don't take him, he's Ravana's brother. And Lord Ramachandra said, anyone who surrenders to me, I will accept him, even if it's Ravana himself. Yes? All right, so then next step in motherhood after marriage, of course, is the union between husband and wife. And in 1028, Krishna says, of all the causes for procreation, I am Kandarpa, the god of love. So the idea is that the children should come about through a loving relationship between the husband and wife. According to the Vedas, a lot of a child's personality is determined by the mentality at the time of conception. So this mentality should be loving. Right? In the marriage between Kardama Muni and Devahuti, Prabhupada writes, this reciprocation of service and love is the ideal of householder life. So if we think about it, let's say we woke up tomorrow morning and the only thing that changed in the world was that all the couples in the world were loving with each other, nothing else. Would that be a huge change? And it would have a huge ripple effect in the world. In fact, if children were conceived and raised by loving families, a large portion of crime, mental illness, and so forth would just simply disappear from the planet. And Prabhupada also says this union between husband and wife, this is a yajna. He actually compares it to offering prasad. Right? We offer the food to Krishna, we eat it. So in the union between husband and wife, we're offering our bodies to Krishna. The husband and wife are offering their bodies to each other. They're offering their bodies to the child they're trying to create. And they're offering their bodies to Krishna. Krishna, you may use my body as a vehicle to bring a jiva into this world, into a human birth. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about 3 kinds of enjoyment. That he says human enjoyment is sensory enjoyment. Demigod enjoyment is emotional enjoyment. And then there's ultimately spiritual enjoyment. So all 3 should be there in this union between husband and wife. And Prabhupada says, because this is a yajna, when it's done properly, he says you can see Krishna. He says you can see Krishna. Also, it's explained in the Bhagavatam that this pleasure of union is actually given by Krishna. It's actually a manifestation of Krishna himself. And of course, this is very attractive in this world. Prabhupada often talks about the union, sexual union, as the primary impetus in this world. And one of these reasons is that it has this idea of achinta bheda bheda. Right? Like in the Bible, it says the husband and wife, they become one. Like this concept. We hear even in the Vedas, it says that the man thinks of the wife as his better half. And so the man and woman, they retain their individual identity, but yet they become one. And of course, this is also ultimately our relationship with Krishna, as Prabhupada's talking about in this purport. And in reestablishing that relationship with Krishna, we actually feel the greatest pleasure, of which this physical union in the world is just a reflection. That when we join with Krishna, we feel this, I am one with you, Krishna, and yet I still retain my identity. And this fills us with the greatest happiness. Srila Prabhupada talks about that we are meant to enjoy through Krishna. We are meant to enjoy through our relationship with Krishna. All right, well, the next step in motherhood, of course, is pregnancy. So those of you who've been pregnant, you know that as soon as you find out you're pregnant, you're immediately thinking about this child all the time. Like, all the time. You know, you go to eat something or drink something, you're thinking, am I eating something that will be good for the baby? Am I drinking something that will be good to the baby? Can I do this kind of exercise? Can I do this kind of activity? It's a constant thought. And that may not be apparent to others. To others, you're just walking in the world. I mean, especially before it's obvious that you're pregnant. But even afterwards, people aren't aware of what's going on inside. So this is how the pure devotee lives in the world. Srila Rupa Goswami gives the analogy of someone who has an illicit lover, that they're thinking about them all the time, although while they're doing their ordinary activities. But this is also certainly the mentality of the pregnant mother. That although she's doing everything in the world, she's thinking about her baby. She's loving her baby. She's trying to please her baby. So the great devotee, they may be apparently working in the world. They may be a software engineer or a doctor or a bank teller or a teacher or whatever they are in the world. But they're constantly thinking, how can I please Krishna by this? How can I please Krishna by this? How can I please Krishna by this? In fact, it's often explained that the great devotees are carrying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? Vidura was explained this way as a tirtha. This is the idea of tilak. You know, all of us have the Lord in our heart, but when we become aware of it, we're acting like that we're carrying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes? Now, also what's interesting is that in a very real sense, Krishna is always pregnant with us. So Mother Yasoda, you know, that time when the Krishna's friends come to him and says, Mother, baby Krishna, he's eating dirt. He says, I didn't eat any dirt. You can look in my mouth and you can see I didn't eat any dirt. So she looks in his mouth and she sees everybody. She sees herself. She doesn't see a picture of herself. She actually sees herself, which is inconceivable. And by the way, she saw all of us. I mean, we weren't in these particular bodies at the time. We were in different bodies, but she saw all of us. inside the body of the Lord. And Lord Brahma, when he's offering his prayers in chapter 14, after he saw the cowherd boys and the calves as Vishnu forms, and he says to the Lord, we are all inside your abdomen. He said, how is it that I'm seeing you outside? How did Mother Yasoda see you outside while we're inside? And how am I seeing you outside? So right now, all of this, everything here is taking place within the abdomen of the Lord. Well, that means, just like the pregnant woman is always thinking of the baby, Krishna is always thinking about us. He's always thinking, what can I do for my part and parcels? How can I show my love for the living entities? How can I do what is pleasing to the living entities? Yes? When a woman is pregnant, she really has this Atma Nivedanam, this real surrender. Right? An ordinary mother is having this surrender to the baby. I mean, she's really, we talk about using your body in service. So this is kind of the ultimate expression of using your body in service. Just like, some of you may have a home with a guest room. Some of you may have a dedicated guest room for guests to stay. Or maybe some of you, when a guest comes, you give them one of your rooms. Right? You let the guest stay in your room and you sleep on the couch or something like that. And sometimes in some temples, people are running an ashram and have people stay. But when you're pregnant, you're actually your body is the ashram. You're putting your guests up in your own body. So this is this real Atma Nivedanam of the devotee when they're doing this for the Lord. And then there's labor and birth. Mm-hmm. So I had this, and it's funny, my daughter is sitting right here. But anyway, from my second and third verse, I was really, I read something in Srila Prabhupada's books in Teachings of Lord Kapila that even an ordinary man can put his mind in such a place that he'll be not disturbed even by a surgical operation. So I read this when I was in the middle of my pregnancy with Champaka, and I thought, well, I didn't really enjoy my first labor with my oldest son. I thought, let me see if I can do this time. And so I practiced meditating. We were in New York. I practiced meditating on Govinda's belt. So they used to put this belt on Govinda, large beads, like probably this bead, 3 strands of beads on each side and then beads in the middle, yes? And it was actually, I mean, if you looked at it off the Lord, it looked kind of gaudy, but on Govinda it looked really nice. I would just think, I'm just going to meditate on Govinda's belt and then nothing will disturb me. And I actually was able to have that labor and for my third baby as well, without any pain. And many years later, I was reading in the Mahabharata something that really explained this to me. So during the Mahabharata war, there was the Kurus actually released the Narayana weapon. You know this story? Anyone know the story of the Narayana weapon? So when the Narayana weapon is released, you cannot counteract it. There's no counteracting it. And Krishna told the Pandava army, said, your only response to the Narayana weapon is you have to put down all of your weapons and lie down. And then it will just go over you. And so everybody did that, except one person wouldn't do that. Who wouldn't do that? Bhima. He said, I'm not putting down my weapons and lying down. And finally, Krishna had to grab his weapons away from him and push him down. And then the Narayana weapons. So labor and delivery is a time when, if we fully surrender, we actually find that we go into a state of being the observer. And Krishna explains this in the 5th and the 13th chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, that we're not really doing anything in this world. We're simply observing. Krishna says in the 6th chapter that when we realize the self, we're not disturbed even by the greatest miseries. So this is a very big event in the body, but when one takes this view of the observer and meditating on Krishna, then we just accept, Krishna, I am yours. I belong to you. And of course, any woman who goes through labor and birth, it's trouble and it's risk. It's also risky to give birth. And Krishna also does this trouble and risk for the living entities, just like the mother is taking this trouble and risk to give a jiva the chance of a human birth. So Krishna takes this trouble and risk, yada yada hi dharmasya glanar bhavati bharata bhutanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. He's coming over and over and over and over again. It's not trouble for, but it is trouble for Krishna, actually. He's not very welcome here. It's just like the prisoners, they don't welcome the guards and the politicians. They're not like, oh, wow, the government is visiting. So the conditioned souls in this world, many of them, when they see Krishna, they just want to kill him. He keeps running into this over and over and over again, that the demons go, oh, you're the one running the show. Let's get rid of you. Yeah, so it's a lot of trouble and a lot of risk. When Ram and Lakshman come, we think of in the battlefield, there were times that they were apparently overcome by weapons. Yes, the snake weapon, and then the weapon for which Hanuman had to get the mountain. Lord Nityananda, he's attacked by Jagai and Madai. Even the Sankirtan movement is attacked by the Kazi. They're breaking the mridanga drums and so forth. Duryodhana tried to capture Krishna and put him in prison. And not only does Krishna come again and again taking risks, but the devotees also. The devotees also keep appearing in this world, taking this trouble and risk in order to allow this birth of the living entity into Krishna consciousness. All right, then we have where the mother is feeding the baby from her own body. Yes? And this is another kind of full surrender, that I'm giving my body to be used in Krishna's service. I mean, a lot of modern women, they like to say, I'm not just a baby-making machine. And I'm thinking, well, you're not your body, that's a fact. You're more than your body. But your body really is a baby-making machine and baby-feeding machine. That's actually what it is. And and it's much better for females to think of their bodies as baby-making and baby-feeding machines rather than men-attracting machines, just by the way. So when you're feeding your baby, you always have to be available. It's not just like you're cooking 3 meals a day or something, or you can hire a cook. And, you have to be there all the time, and you're feeding your baby so often. And, before I had a baby, I thought it was something very romantic. But it's not really very romantic. You're covered with soured milk and baby spit up, and then there's baby stool and baby urine all over the place. And, again, you're really giving your body in Krishna's service. And the child is not even aware, at least the little baby is not even aware that their mother is a separate person. They don't have this consciousness, they're in what we call anamoya consciousness in the beginning. They don't yet have pranamoya consciousness. They just think, I want to get fed. And even though the mother is sacrificing her time, her availability, her body, all the little baby is doing is complaining. Right? I mean, until the baby's like 6 weeks old, they don't even smile. And this is what's going on with us and Krishna. Krishna is giving us air, and we don't even think about it. No. Yeah, I've got air. Of course I have air. I'm supposed to have air. It's supposed to be here, I'm breathing air. Duh. Arjuna says to Krishna, you are the air. Krishna is giving us food. The majority of people on the earth say they believe in God, but how many of them are thinking about Krishna when they're buying their food at the supermarket, when they're cooking, when they're eating? It's just food. It's just there. He's giving us our intelligence. He's giving us our forgetfulness, too. That's kind of nice sometimes. He's giving us everything. He's giving us our ability to walk, our ability to sit up, everything. Like the mother's providing everything for this little tiny baby, and the baby is just unaware. And frankly, at least in the beginning, the baby is very ungrateful. Eventually, hopefully, the baby becomes grateful. But in the beginning, the baby is unaware and ungrateful. But still, the mother doesn't stop giving. She doesn't say, well, my 1-week-old baby, all he does is cry. Why should I even bother? Therefore, Prabhupada says this love of the mother for the child is the closest to spiritual love. Because at least in the beginning, there's not really any reciprocation at all. And that's how Krishna is taking care of the rebellious living entities. He's giving them everything, even if they remain unaware of him, and even if they remain ungrateful. Prabhupada talks about the ability to create milk as a mystic power. I mean, actually, digestion in general is a mystic power. Krishna says he's the fire of digestion. And I talk about this a lot, how, yesterday I had some bread and today it's my nose. And how did that happen? How did bread turn into my nose? Right? How did a strawberry, I had a strawberry this morning. How did it become my earlobe and my fingers? And how does that happen? And Prabhupada says, he was talking about how everyone has some mystic power. And this ability to eat food and turn it into milk, how does that happen? Nobody knows. And Krishna is so amazing that every kind of mammal has exactly the right milk for their particular species. Like baby whales gain 200 pounds a day. There's a little different chemical composition of the milk. And the scientists cannot turn one kind of milk into another. If anybody could figure out how to turn like cow's milk into human milk, they would immediately surpass Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk in their bank account. I was listening to a Christian creationist many, many years ago. We used to collect these things for the Gurukul. And he was saying that if you take the two hemispheres of the brain of all the scientists working on baby formula, they cannot be comparable to a woman's two breasts to produce the right kind of milk. And the mother's milk changes according to the needs of the child. Do you know that women produce different milk if they have a male child or a female child? And a lot of immunity is there in the mother's milk. And of course, Krishna is providing that. Krishna says he's the healing herb. And we were talking about in Krishna meditations how the drugs and the herbs and the healing, it's coming from the breathing of the Lord and the hairs of the Lord. So also like this, right? And the food is all coming from his tongue. So just like the mother is giving this medicine and food and nourishment, so Krishna is also providing all of that from his body as well. Everything we're eating, everything we're drinking, all the medicines we're taking, this is all coming from Krishna, and it's all coming according to the living entity. I'm thinking about how when Maharaj Prithu, right, when the earth took the form of a cow, and then he said you have to provide for the living entities, and all different sorts of living entities were milking this cow, and they were all bringing exactly the type of material they wanted for their particular needs. All right, then we have general love of the mother for the child. So when Dhruva Maharaj was insulted by his stepmother, right, he went to see his natural mother, and she said to him, I agree with you, but I can't do anything for you. I'm powerless. She says, my husband doesn't really treat me as a wife. She said, he barely treats me as a servant. I don't have any power. And officially, she was the queen, but she had no power. Right? Sometimes it's like that. You go to someone for help and they say, sorry, I'm just not the right person to help you. She said, but you can go to the Lord, and he has the affection of millions and millions of mothers. And he will actually take care of you. So this instinct to protect one's child, we do see it in some species with fathers, but it's particularly present in mothers. And with birds, you also see it in fathers. And then there are some animals like seahorses where the father is the primary caregiver, but that's a little unusual. But you will see among all the animal species that the mothers will sacrifice themselves to protect their child. Right? They'll lure the predator away from the nest and so forth. They'll fight a much larger, stronger animals to protect their young. In fact, the scientists say that the urge to protect the young is stronger than the urge to reproduce. And we see this, of course, in human society. People will go to great lengths to sacrifice for their children. And again, we want to bring out that this is the closest to spiritual love. And then parents provide, both mother and father are providing everything for their children. I mean, generally, unless they're like drug addicts or something. But, most parents, they're providing everything the children need and even what the children want. Right? Parents they're certainly providing food, they're providing clothes, they're providing shelter, education, friends, toys, right? All all different sorts of experiences. Right? They may enroll them in a soccer club and a baseball club and a gymnastics club and so many things. And the child doesn't need to worry about that. The child doesn't need to say, are you going to feed me? Are you going to give me any clothes? I mean, if the parents are decent human beings, then the only thing the child has to worry about is being a good child. Right? If they're just little children, they just have to worry about maybe cleaning up their toys and being respectful. And when they're a little older, they have to worry about doing their studies. But they don't need to worry about their maintenance. And not just basic maintenance. They don't even need to worry about the extra things in life. Right? All of you who are parents, you buy toys for your children. Right? You provide extra things for your children. Not just exactly what they need to live. So Krishna is like this. Right? In Bhagavad Gita 2:45, he says, Nir yoga kshema atmavan. Don't worry about protecting what you have. Don't worry about getting what you need. Just worry about the self, atmavan. And then later in 9:22, he says, Yoga kshema vaham yaham. I'm taking care of all that. All we have to think about, the only thing we have to think about is our service. Now, our service might be to work at a bank. Our service might be to teach in a school. Our service might be to write code. That might be our service that we're doing for Krishna. But all we have to worry about is doing our service nicely. And Krishna will take care of us. Now you can say, well, sometimes it doesn't appear that Krishna takes care of us the way that we want. But sometimes from children's perspective, it doesn't appear that the parents take care of them the way that they want. Isn't that true? The child will say, I want to play with this toy right now. And the parents say, no, you have to put that toy away. And sometimes the parents will even take the toy from the child. I want to eat my cookie. No, first you have to eat your broccoli. And the child is, but I want to eat my cookie right now. Right? And the parents might say, if you want any cookie at all, you have to finish your broccoli. And so the child may think, my parents don't love me. If my parents really loved me, they would just give me all the cookies I wanted whenever I wanted. And they would let me steal the toys from my brother and hit my brother over the head with my toys, and they wouldn't be restricting me in this way. So we often think like that about Krishna. Why is Krishna restricting me in this way? Why is he making this difficult? Why is he just not giving this thing that I want? And many of us have something in our life that we've obsessed over. I have to get this, I have to get this, I have to get this, I have to get this. And I've noticed that it's particularly what we obsess over that Krishna tends not to give us. Have you noticed that? Like often the little things, right? Like just a week or two ago, I was thinking, I'd like another bird sculpture and a couple more solar lights for the garden. And then 2 days later, Guru Bhakta knocks at my door and says, Urmila, I have a peacock sculpture and 4 solar lights for the garden. I mean, this is a very common thing, that when you just have, some little thing that you want, that Krishna says here. And the things that you're going, I have to have this. He says no. And that's actually quite reasonable, isn't it? Yeah. So it was a few years ago. I remember it was my great-grandson Abhimanyu's birthday, and I had gotten him 4 presents. I'd gotten him 2 toys and 2 craft books, like books you could make craft things out of. So it was a week later, and he had so far played with one of the toys and used one of the books. And we went to a local museum. It was one of the other kids' birthdays. I don't remember where that was. Was it Mebane or Burlington? So we went to this other really nice museum just for kids. So we're about to leave, and he says, Gran, can you buy me a toy from the gift shop? And my first response was, well, Abhimanyu, I just gave you 4 gifts for your birthday a week ago, and 2 of them you haven't even used yet. Now, I wasn't at a no point yet. I wasn't at like a no. I was just said, you haven't even used what I've already given you. I was open to, it wasn't like a big, expensive, fancy thing. I was open to doing that. But as soon as I said that, he had a tantrum. Full tantrum, lay on the ground, kicking and screaming, I want this! Then there was no question that I was going to give that to him. That was absolutely not going to happen. So I see this often with Krishna, that the things we tantrum about, the things we obsess over, the things we demand, he's like, I'm sorry, this is not the kind of dealings that I want with my part and parcel. And the things that we just, either we don't ask from them at all, and just they come and we're like, wow, I didn't even know I needed this. What a wonderful thing. Or things we have some passing thought with detachment. Then Krishna just simply arranges that. Because Krishna knows exactly, Srila Prabhupada makes this point so many times. Krishna already knows what we need. I mean, better to ask Krishna for something than to pretend we don't want it and try to get it independently of him. He wants us to have a mood of dependence on him. But he doesn't want us to have a merchant kind of relationship with him. And none of us like that, right? None of us want the kind of relationship. Sometimes this happens, especially sometimes with adult children, that they're just coming to their parents for money. And the parents are, it's not the kind of, they're happy the child's calling them, but not for that. Right? So Krishna prefer we come to him rather than not come to him at all. But he wants us to just trust him, that he's taking care of our lives. And then, of course, the good parents, they provide training and education for their children. So this was the case even before there was like compulsory education in the world. That parents naturally train their children in the skills that they would need to lead a good and independent life. And of course, Krishna is also doing this, right? As we were saying before, of the things he's giving us, matasmatir jnanam apohanam cha, he's giving us knowledge, he's giving us information, he's giving us forgetfulness even when we need that. And it's so nice in 10:10 and 10:11, tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mam upayanti te tesham evanukam patam aham agyanajam tamaha nasayam yatma bhavasto jnana dipena bhashvita. Krishna's giving us buddhi yoga. And in those purports, Prabhupada says that even if you're part of a spiritual organization, even if you have a spiritual master, if you're not fully taking advantage of those, Krishna will help you from within. And actually, Krishna's helping everyone, not just the devotee, but especially Krishna's helping the devotee. He's giving us information, he's giving us guidance, he's giving us realization how to come to him. He's setting up our life so we meet the right people, we end up in the right places, we read the right things, we hear the right things. In general, Prabhupada talked about how he was producing Back to Godhead magazine in India, and then one man said to him, people throw away magazines. Better to make books. People are going to keep books. And then he was thinking, oh yes, my Guru Maharaj said, if you ever have money, print books. Of course, then he had no money. But he decided to switch to books, and he decided to work on the Bhagavatam. And so this way, Krishna may be guiding us in so many ways, but he's always trying to take care of our education. And what are the parents trying to educate the child for? So you may remember quite some time ago I gave that seminar on career dharma. Maybe some of you have our book on that. How to realize what is your nature. And the idea of education is not that, well, I think my child should be a this or a that, and therefore I'm going to try to force them to be what I think they should be. But real education is that I help understand what is the nature of my child, and I help them be the best of that nature in Krishna's service. That's actually what education is meant for. And Prabhupada talks about this a lot. The teachers and the parents, they're supposed to notice, oh, my child has this particular tendency. Let me give them an education in that tendency. Let me give them an education in that dharma so that they become the best version of themselves in Krishna's service. So that's extremely important. Srila Prabhupada says that Gurukul is for training in higher values of life, along with specific training for a livelihood. But in the ultimate issue, our nature in this world is illusory and temporary. It's not our real self. It's not that, just because you're a banker in this life, that you're a banker in Goloka Vrindavan. Not like, I don't think they have any software engineers or anesthesiologists and things like that. So Krishna's also doing this on a transcendental level. He wants us to be who we are. A running point that Srila Prabhupada makes throughout his books is that we all have an eternal relationship with Krishna. And that is already established. It is already there. What is our relationship with Krishna? And Krishna wants to educate us so that that becomes revived, reawakened, that we wake up and go, oh, that's who I am. And there's a particular role we have in the Leelas and with Krishna that only we have. And so Krishna is bringing us through the Shastra, through the sadhus, through Guru, through all of our life experiences once we're taking up bhakti yoga to realize who we are. Krishna's not trying to, what does Prabhupada say? It's not an artificial imposition on the mind. And someone just wrote me a message today. He said, I used to try to force people to be Krishna conscious, and that didn't work. You know, it's not something forced or artificial. It's a reawakening. It's like when you have seeds, you plant them and they become what they are. Right? Your rose seed becomes a rose. Your chrysanthemum seed becomes a chrysanthemum. It all becomes what it is. So, and this is Krishna's happiness. Just like it's the happiness of the parent to see that, oh, my child is actually learning what they're meant to learn. And Krishna is also this is his joy. People often have a very strange conception of God. I run into this all the time, that people think that Krishna wants us to be some kind of a machine. Go do this. Yes, sir, I go do that. No thought, no. But we say Krishna doesn't enjoy the material energy. He doesn't really enjoy machines. He wants to work with living entities who have their own desires, who have their own personality, who can say no, who can negotiate. Right? Where Arjuna is saying, oh, I don't know, that doesn't seem practical to me, that instruction, Krishna. I don't think that's going to work. He wants that kind of relationship with another living entity. And then, of course, the parents have a lifetime relationship with a child. Once you give birth to a child, you are a parent for the rest of your life. I mean, that you just are. Even if you're completely estranged from your child, you are that child's parent. That's one of these irrevocable relationships. Yeah? And we also have this eternal relationship with Krishna. Now, of course, with mundane parents, it only lasts for this life. Maharaj Chitraketu, so you may know the story, so he really wanted to have a child, and then he finally had a child. And then when the child was 2, it had a tragic death. And then Narada Muni comes with Angira, right? It was Angira? So Narada and Angira, they come, and Chitraketu's falling apart, and his wife is falling apart. Everybody's like completely losing it over this dead child that they'd wanted for so long. And then the sages, they bring the soul back into the body of the child. And the child gets up, and here your mother and father are crying for you. And he said, oh, in what lifetime were they my mother and father? So we've had so many parents in so many lifetimes that we don't even remember. They don't remember us. We don't remember them. So it's just in this lifetime, this is my child. But for Krishna, it's always there. Mamai Vamso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanantana. We're always like that. That relationship is never broken. And Krishna loves his living entities, even if they take birth in abominable species of life. Even if they're in a snake body or a cockroach body or a poison ivy body, he still loves them. Sometimes we might feel that we're not very lovable. But Krishna always loves us. Our devotee Sadhvi, who lives here, she told me one time she was out selling Prabhupada's books, and she was thinking, does Krishna really love me? Does he actually love me? And 2 minutes later, somebody came over and handed her a balloon that said, God loves you. So, he's actually always loving us, but we're, again, like this little infant who's not often aware that he's there or what he's doing for us. And so he's thinking, when is he going to reach out to me? right? Like those of us who have adult children or adult grandchildren in distant cities, and we think, when are they going to call me? So Krishna's thinking like that. When are they going to call? I often bring this point about Brihad Bhagavatamrita when Gopakumar goes to Vaikuntha. And Lord Vishnu said, I was waiting life after life after life. You never did anything spiritual. And I was thinking, when is he going to reach out? When is he going to reach out? So Krishna is always thinking like that. Right? Like our parents, they've forgotten us from the last birth. Or sometimes parents get old and they get dementia and they forget. They don't remember their children anymore. But Krishna never forgets. He's always there for us. So we looked at all aspects of mothering in relationship to Krishna, right? Marriage and union and pregnancy and labor and birth and lactation and the general love and the education and this relationship in relationship to Krishna. And then I wanted to ask if any of you can think about some pastimes with mothering and Krishna, either where Krishna in any incarnation, any form, was being mothered, or where Krishna was acting motheringly, where he was mothering. Yes?
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, Krishna. When Krishna and the cowherd boys, they mother each other when their legs are tired. They're
massaging each other's legs.
Yes.
And very nice. Okay, somebody else? Yes, Champaka?
Lord Nrsingadev, I've actually been telling, because the girls are learning a dance, I've been telling them that Lord Nrsingadev is basically what we would call a tiger mom. Except he's a lion, so he's a lion mom. I mean, he's male, but this whole class is about how he's a mother, right? So he's very obviously a mother in that form, protecting her child.
Yeah, and it said that the Singadev was licking Prahlad all over his body. You know, like a mother cat would lick the kitten. Yes? Yes, Mother Krishna Priya?
Today I heard something interesting, and it was in relationship to this verse also. And it spoke about Krishna, and then it spoke about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how he's holding up the whole universe. And then it even spoke about in that one pastime where Lord Chaitanya gave
Milk to everyone.
Milk to everyone. And how Lord Chaitanya actually is like the mother, because he's so concerned with the well-being of all living entities, and he's doing so much sacrifice, and he's trying to give pure love to everyone, and then he's feeding everyone. Like he can take one mango seed and create a whole tree and feed everybody lots of mangoes, and so he's very, very nurturing like a mother.
Yeah, well, Sri Chaitanya was especially Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So Srila Rupa Goswami describes that Srimati Radharani is the personified compassion of the Lord. That's actually an interesting point that, I don't know if you're aware of this, but medical studies are often done, psychological, physical studies, are often done in the West on college students, which can skew the results, by the way, since college students don't necessarily represent the population in general, but, you know, they pay them something and like that. And it used to be that it was done on only male college students. And so there was some research done many years ago on where do we get a sense of morality. How do we develop our sense of morality? And the decision was that the research showed that it came from a sense of justice, that a sense of justice led to morality. And it was, I think, a couple decades later that some researchers looked at this and said, this research was only done on males. And they redid the research with females, and they found that women came to morality primarily through mercy rather than justice. And so we see, like Prabhupada will say, when Krishna came, he said, first you surrender. And Lord Chaitanya says, no, everybody. It's all right, everybody. So it was more of this merciful mood, yes.
I just wanted to say one more thing about Lord Chaitanya being mothered. We were just reading in the CC that he's saying farewell to all the Bengali devotees, and he especially has a message for his mother, and he becomes very emotional. It's described that he has to compose himself, as he says, actually, I took sannyas in madness. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have left my mother, but please let her know that I actually visit and eat her offerings. And he spoke of a specific time on Vijayadashami that she had made a feast for him. And when she went to collect the offering plates, they were empty. So she thought, oh, somehow I didn't put anything on the plates. So she filled them up again, and the same thing happened. And he's like, please let her know that I actually came and ate the food that she cooked, because I know that every day she cries that she's cooking and I'm not there to eat it. But let her know that I actually am. So
Thank you
yeah.
so much. Okay, we had two different people over here. Yes?
It's a beautiful pastime of how the Lord protected Draupadi, in the Akshay Patra, and just one grain, and he filled the tummies of all Durvasa Munis and his disciples.
Yes.
That shows that.
That's definitely a very mothering kind of thing to do. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Mataji, for the wonderful class. So I think during the Treta Yuga, when Lord Ram, two occasions, I'm not sure if it fits or not, probably you can guide me there. When Jatayu is leaving his body when he fought trying to protect Mata Sita, and then during his last moments, Lord Ram actually puts his head on his laps and is like, showing all the love. And I felt like that's a moment of motherly love that he was showing. And also similarly, when Lakshman was hit by the Shaktiman, he also does the same thing and is showing affection, is crying for Lakshman and remembering all the seva Lakshman was doing, and that, that he was treating Lakshman as his son.
Wow. I'm just thinking with Ramlila, when Shabari, the tribal lady, she was really acting like a mother with Ram and Lakshman. I mean, that's the typical thing a mother would do, especially with young children. You taste the food first before you give it to your child. So that was kind of that word. Yes, somebody else?
Speaking of Lord Ram, I feel like one instance in Ram Leela shows Ram being a mother in two ways, and that is when he banishes Sita to the forest. In one way, he is being a mother in the way that he is showing sacrifice and putting his kingdom above himself, his own desires. And then also in the way that a mother teaches very difficult lessons. And one of those difficult lessons is that in this material world, there's not happy endings, and so he shows that mothering aspect through those lessons.
I like that very much. So you're seeing that Ram is being very motherly in terms of the citizens, that he's sacrificing his own happiness for the sake of the citizens like a mother would be doing. Very nice. Anybody else? Well, Mother Yasoda, right? And Mother Devaki. I mean, to me, Devaki's sacrifice that she makes for Krishna is beyond even comprehension. How, she sees her child briefly, feeds him one time, and then he's gone. And for the sake of her child, right, she doesn't see him for so many years, doesn't have communication with him for so many years. And always just thinking about him and not being able to have a relationship with him, but because she's so selfless in that motherly love. Yeah?
I think Krishna being motherly, the best example for me is appearance of Srimati Radharani. If Krishna did not expanded his compassionate potency in the form of Srimati Radharani, I don't know where I would be. So that's how I see it.
Oh, that's very nice. Yes.
Krishna, but when I think about Srila Prabhupada, when he first, opened up matchless gifts, and his disciples barely knew any spiritual practice, any Vedanta, and he was cooking for them and putting tilak on for them, and
washing dishes.
Washing dishes. And
standing in line for the bathroom.
Just so many things. And allowing them to get away with it, like mischievous children. But yeah, so similar thing. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, we take one more and then we should probably end. It's after 6.
During Vamana avatar, when he's measuring, like I think before he started measuring, right? So Raja Bali's sister looks at him and she has that feeling that, oh, I want, to breastfeed him as my child. And then Lord decides that, yeah, why not? And then, fulfills, she incarnates as Putana, and then she fulfills.
Because when he cheated Bali, then she also wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
She kind of switched. So
And even then, still Lord decided, like, why not?
he said, okay, well, let's do both, All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you again for giving me some opportunity to talk about Krishna.